I really enjoyed today, actually, Bishop Gaynor's homily, because when he spoke about Job, and we had the reading about Job, where God kind of challenges Job, do you understand all these things? And the reality is we don't understand everything. Humankind today, we're kind of very technologically savvy, and we have this idea that maybe we've run way ahead of our ancestors, and things like, we were more intelligent than the people in the Middle Ages at the time of Jesus Christ, or before that. No. Human beings have always been human beings, and they're still the same. They were always intelligent, and they're intelligent now. And sometimes we kind of can lose things, actually, from the past that we had, and we lose. And for example, if you tried to put up the basilicas and cathedrals that you find in Europe today, you probably couldn't find the craftsmen to do it. They wouldn't know how to do it. And you know how they learned how to do it? By looking at the Pantheon that the Romans had built in Rome, another 1,000 years, 2,000 years before them. All that technology goes way back to the Romans. So so there's some things. There's a patrimony. So this whole subject I'm going to talk about has to do with a bigger issue that I call patrimony. Okay, a patrimony, the word is from Latin root, pater, father, and the father sense here, pater in the patria or something like that, our fatherland, doesn't mean just the father, it means both parents. So when we talk about patrimony, we're talking about the patrimony of both parents, both man and woman in someone's life. So it's patrimony. Moni sounds like money, right? So it really means treasure. Patrimony means father treasure, or the parent's treasure. Okay? So this subject is part of that. The patrimony that we have to give to the next generation, which you are very involved in, giving this patrimony to the next generation. That's why this works very well. And as I said, we all live in our ages, and maybe we think that we're a little ahead of those who came before us, but actually there are certain things that even today are falling away from 20 or 30 years ago. Most of us maybe, a good number of us had our education maybe 20, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Okay, 50 years ago. And actually, some of the things they might have taught us back then are not true. And I'm going to challenge some things. I'm an electrical engineer, and I've always loved science. So none of this has anything against science. In fact, science is what brought me to these conclusions. Okay? And in education, this means something that's been very much in education in the last 30, 40 years, is what we call gender-neutral education. Gender-neutral. That is, with the rise of the women's movement, the idea is, and still will be, that men and women are equal. And they are. They are equal in dignity. But they are not the same. And science is breaking down all those ideas that men and women are the same. Okay? Now, actually, that's not so hard to figure out. All you have to do is take one look. And you can figure out men and women are different. Okay, but there's been some, various ideologies that have pushed this, that have kind of tried to push a science when it wasn't science. Okay? Even today, for example, California's legislature just passed a law about a week ago. It said that psychologists who try to cure, in San Francisco, homosexuality are not allowed to. They're not allowed to practice their science because the legislature has said so. Isn't that interesting? Legislator they're not scientists. They shouldn't make that judgment. That should be up to psychologists. But it's an ideology that's taken hold. Now, and that's part of it comes from this gender-neutral education. Okay? Now, by gender-neutral education, I do not mean that men and women are not equal. Okay? So in the sense of dignity. So we're going to put that to rest. Men and women have the same dignity before God and before each other. But they are not the same physically. Okay? And not just on the outside. Okay? Now, some of you might know this book. This will be kind of the beginning of what I'm going to talk about. There's a book here called Why Gender Matters. It's by Dr. Leonard Sachs. He's both a psychologist and a medical doctor. And it's, like I said, it's Why Gender Matters, What Parents and Teachers Should Need to Know About the Emerging Science of Sex Differences. Okay? And I'll talk about some of these things and then go on to some other things that more have to be with my field, which is religion, okay, and philosophy. Men and women are different from, okay, so for example, all of you women are seeing something different in this room than the men. Literally, you see something different. Why? Because the eyes of men and women are constructed in a different manner. Actually, from the very surface of the eye all the way back to the brain, there's not actually one thing that's exactly the same. Okay? The cones and rods that receive light in the eye, for men, the predominant thing in the eye are the rods. Okay? Rods take in black and white colors in general. Okay? Probably silver might be in there. Grays. Okay? And the rods for men are distributed evenly across the eye. Evenly. Okay? Women's rods, when they have them, and they have quite a few less. I mean, it's like 70 or 80% less. Okay? Rods. Women's are in the center of the vision field, where men's are spread out evenly across the vision field. Cones, the same. Cones bring in colors, especially reds, oranges, greens, and beige. Okay? Those are detecting for those colors especially. And again, for the woman, those are centered in the center of the vision field, where for the man, they're evenly across the eye. Now, what are the effects of that? The effects of that are simply that men tend to notice anything that's moving, because anything that moves across the vision field, they see. The rods note the difference in position. So men, if you want to get boys interested in something in a class, just throw something in the air. And you'll instantly have their attention. Okay? Because their eyes like movement. Okay? And in philosophy, we would say they are pleased by it. They're pleased. It satisfies an appetite for what it was meant to receive. So you actually gain pleasure when you get to use your senses. Okay? That's an obvious thing. Okay. For women, on the other hand, it's in the center of the vision field, and that makes for women to naturally look at the face of a person. Okay, women naturally look at the face. Actually, girls from a very young age can much better detect the expressions on someone's face than a man, than a boy. Okay? Now, you can grow in that knowledge, but men don't naturally even notice the differences, actually, because, so for example, the men here, I might blush, the women would pick it up real quick, the men would not. They would eventually pick it up because they do have the cones in their eyes to see the red. But women pick it up faster. because there's a greater number of cones in the eye. Okay? Those cones and rods are connected to ganglion cells that then there's picocells and magnocells. The picocells are, like it sounds, smaller. So a woman's eyes is predominantly picocells because they take the cones and send the message to the brain. Okay? So women have thinner eyes, smaller eyes in general, because they pick up color. Where men will have a thicker eye because their rods are in general connected to magnocells that then take that and send it to a place in the brain. And actually, the wiring that takes it to the brain, men's vision and women's vision, the production of various, spatial and then color and so forth, actually happen in different places in the brain. So there's nothing the same from in all the way through. Okay? Now, what does that mean? So, for example, why does a girl sit in the front of a class more naturally than a boy? Why? Because she likes the middle of the vision field. She'll want to sit up front, and she'll want to see the teacher in the center of the vision field. The boy will want to sit in the back of the classroom. You all know that, right? And he'll be distracted by anything that moves in the class. And if nothing is moving, he'll try and make something move. So if you don't watch him, spit wads are going up on the ceiling. Okay? Or if there's a fly in the room, it's a major distraction. Major. Because it's moving. And it's black and white. It's black. Black fly flying across here. It's a perfect thing. Okay? So that difference makes a huge difference in education. Girls will want to sit in the middle of the class. Boys will sit in the back of the class. Boys will want to see things moving. Girls will not want to see things moving. So you want to get attention of the boys, start marching back and forth in front of the class, and they'll be happier. The girls won't be. Okay, you're starting still, and the boys, then you start fading on you. But the girls are very attentive. Okay? Another thing really affects education, hearing. Now, I don't know how many of you are married, probably most. You ladies who are married, did you ever notice your husband doesn't hear things? You guys. Oh, I should say, you guys. Did you hear that better? If I talk like this. See, interesting enough, men's hearing, men's eardrums are longer. Women's eardrums are shorter. And because they're shorter, they naturally pick up higher frequency. Higher frequency, shorter wave, right? Shorter wavelength, therefore a higher frequency, therefore a higher sound. Well, interesting enough, women's ears are perfect for picking up voice, where men's ears are made for low rumbling sounds. So your husband might hear the truck going by in the road and you don't hear it. Where you pick up something that's high-pitched, like a baby crying or something like that, and you hear that. You hear it faster than him. And now there certainly might be a blocking exercise there too. That doesn't really refer to me. Okay. So, hearing. So very important, especially for you teachers who teach younger children. Little boys don't hear well. Okay? Little boys don't hear well. Oh, that's a big revelation, isn't it? Huge revelation. They don't hear well. It isn't because they're not trying to pay attention. It's because you probably have a soft, high voice. and so they don't hear you, you have to try and talk loudly for them. Of course, then all the girls will think you're yelling at them. You guys are teachers. If you raise your voice or say it real loud, your girl students might say, they're yelling at me. He's been yelling at me in class. And you're like, yelling what? I didn't yell. I just talk loud. Okay? So this is all. So what all this starts to be about is perception. Okay? Perception. Let's see. Let's do this. What do you see? What color is that? Gray. Wrong, it's yellow. I saw yellow, you saw gray. Because of your point of departure. Where you're sitting, your point of departure, makes it so you see a gray thing. I see yellow because of my point of departure. Okay, you have to think about it that way when you start talking about boys and girls. They see the world from a different point of departure. And you cannot assume that they see it from your point of departure, especially if your children are the opposite sex of you as teachers. You have to try and understand their point of departure. Now, the truth or the reality is in the thing, okay? Because you were right. It is gray. I didn't see that. You were right. It's gray. What I saw was yellow because of my point of departure. Both are true. The truth is in this thing. It's not in my perception. So the truth is in the thing. Okay? And science is based on that. That's why science isn't about the scientist. It's about the experiment that's repeatable. And it tries to investigate various points of departures and collect that information. So then once collecting all the information, we can know that this is a notepad with yellow paper and a gray back. And that's the truth. Okay? So that's reality. Okay? So for those who, so that was what I'm trying to get at here, is in the gender-neutral philosophy, their idea didn't correspond with reality. Girls and boys are not the same. It's that simple. It's scientific. Okay? It's just simply scientific. This is not a philosophical discussion. Now, how do I interpret those facts? That's called philosophy. Okay? And the philosophy that best matches reality is most likely to be the more true philosophy. Okay? So a philosophy is a system of understanding the world. Okay? A way of seeing the world, certain ways of seeing the world, that help us understand what a thing is. Now, I could probably go through different other things that are difference between men and women. I think it's important for you to understand those things. Okay, touch. Little girls' touch develops faster than little boys. Okay, girls' tactile motion and motor skills develop roughly 2 years faster at like 5 years old than boys. Okay, so it's important that you don't expect the writing ability from a kindergarten child, 5 years old, that's a boy and a girl the same way. Because the boy literally isn't where the girl is. He's 2 years behind. Okay, so you should not expect that little boy to do that. Okay, the boy won't catch up with that until he's about 18, 19. And as far as like his handwriting goes, for example. He literally is behind all that time. Now, and same thing, okay, now this starts to apply with various things. Another thing about little girls is because they have girls construct speech in roughly 6 parts of the brain. Boys, only 1. So men at an older age, if they have a stroke in the wrong place, they're likely never to get their speech back. Women who have a stroke in one of the centers where speech is produced usually can get speech back because the other parts of the brain start to pick it up. Okay, so because of the ears, because of the brain, because of tactile motion, in general, girls have what's called a verbal advantage. Girls have a verbal advantage. They learn to talk and then also record sounds and so forth faster than boys. On the other hand, just because boys are behind in speech and those kinds of things at that age, boys are actually ahead in mathematics at the same age. In general, boys at 5 years old will do well in mathematics and could go ahead, while the girls won't do that. One of the reasons that is because, again, literally inside men's brains, in the amygdala region of the brain, which is way down in the